Now today's picture was specially sent in by Steve. Now Steve, he left the Wirral in the 1970s and he's lived in France ever since. Now these pictures here are paintings which are currently hung up on his hallway in France, and he sent these pictures in so we can have a look exactly what it's like now and have a look at these excellent paintings. Now the white building in the distance that you can see is of the boathouse in Parkgate, and we can see that now from here. Now because Parkgate is now a conservation village, not much has changed, but we can have a look and see what it's like today in HD rather than paint 2D that these were done in. Now this was these pictures here, they were bought in the 70s, but this picture here was done by Campbell G. Walker in the 1950s. Now we haven't quite got the angle right here, because in the middle of that picture on the right is that row of cottages. Now that row of cottages where we are is right here. Oh. There are the cottages there which are in that photograph. You can clearly see the two windows look the same, and even the chimney pots on the top. But we've got the angle wrong for this picture. We think we've got to move back a bit. So let's do that. Let's try and get the exact right location for this painting. Now before we do, look on that painting again. You can see on the right that little stone built turret. Well, this is it here from this angle, just beyond it. There is a tree there, but it does seem to be in a slightly different place, but it's a similar type of tree. Right, we've come way back up here by Wirral Road, and I think we've got the right angle here, very roughly, just bearing by the curve on the wall, the road. But one thing we've noticed is these lampposts are definitely here now, which weren't there when the painting was done. So that's kind of obscuring the view a little bit, but let's have a look around and see what we can see, just if we zoom in a bit. Now clearly to the left there's the gully, which is completely overgrown in marshland now. If we look over to the left, we're slightly at an angle. That's a bit better. On the painting there's a little gullyway, a little boat, and the water comes in. It probably does on the highest tides, to be honest. There's now a bus stop here, and then there's Wirral Road off to the right. Now Wirral Road would have existed then, but let's go back to the main view. We zoom in a little bit. We'd have to change lens to get more of a zoom on that, but we can see the cottage that we were at before, the turret on the right, and the boathouse in the distance. As we usually do, we're going to have a look around and see where we are. So if we just take that view, look out over the River Dee estuary and back in the other direction. So here we are, up just round the corner. That's the end of the boathouse that we were looking at just before, and this is what it's like today, just from the corner there. Quite a nice food and drink establishment. But Steve has also sent in another painting of a pub in Bebington. So let's shoot over there and have a look at that. So here is the next picture painting that Steve has sent in. It's a pub in Higher Bebington. It's no longer a pub, but we're going to have a look at that in a minute. But we've made our way here to the corner of Teehee Road, just on our right, and Village Road on our left. King's Road is up in front of us. to go and take a look. Now this was a pub back in the time that this was painted. In fact, if you look closely on the painting, it was the Royal Oak Inn. But just down here, that Royal Oak Inn is actually on Village Road. But we need to head up Village Road, past the Acorn on the right. We see this hall, Victoria Hall. Now another thing about this Victoria Hall, the Beatles played here. We've got a video about the Beatles on the Wirral Peninsula and all the fairs that they did on the peninsula itself rather than in Liverpool. But let's head up the road, and if we just have a glimpse of it, see that white building right in the middle of the shot? That was the Royal Oak. But let's go and have a closer look. Just before we get to the old Royal Oak, and there's these two cottages here, just to the side of it, just to the right of it. Now I guarantee that they were here at the time that this was a Royal Oak. And there's the Royal Oak up on the top. Now just to the left, I mean, we don't know what was there when the paintings were done, but this is what's to the left, the opposite of the Royal Oak now. Block of flats, Elm Court I think is one of them. Well, let's try and get the same angle as that painting was. Now it's difficult to get the exact same angle as the painting. It looks like this elevated. But here is the Royal Oak. It's now a business. So we can't go in there and have a look. But if you look on the painting, we can just see a stone wall to the right. That is that stone wall. The side door is still there with the 3 steps on it. The drain pipes are still there, although it looks like one's been replaced. The sign is still there, but with a new sign on it. And the chimney pots look, well, they've been changed on that far end, and they've been changed on this other end as well, so they've been replaced at some point. This is possibly the best angle we can get without getting elevated, and possibly taken on painting from behind us in a row of houses which were probably there at the time. So let's go and have a look what was behind us, and probably these row of shops may not, they would have probably been there. They look like they would have been there at the time. But let's go across the road and have a look back. Opposite a road, Sandfield Road. And these are the houses. It was possibly painted from one of those windows at the top of this row of houses. These houses would have probably been there at the time. They look like they would have, whereas the flats at the other end weren't. They look a lot more modern, 90s possibly. Here it is from slightly further up the road, looking back down from the opposite angle. So thanks to Steve for sending these paintings in, excellent paintings. And if you have any pictures or paintings just like Steve did, send them in and we'll go and have a look at them for you there. By the way, there's the little road that goes up the side of the Royal Oak.